If you want to sell your home for top dollar, then staging your house properly is going to be absolutely critical to your success. That's why in today's video, I'm going to be going over my top 10 tips on how to stage your home for maximum profits. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video, and if this is the first time we meet, my name is Kenneth and I'm a realtor here in El Paso, Texas. I actually included a couple of bonus tips in this video, so there's actually 13 of them, so stick around to the end because I'm going to be going over from the least important to the most important at my number 1 spot, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So starting off at number 13 is going to be your closets and pantries. Now this is super important because they're very overlooked, and although they're not the most important thing in the house, you want to make sure that if someone pulls open that door to your closet or opens the doors to your pantry, that everything is clean and organized, so it really makes your home stand out. So here are a couple of examples. We're going to start off with the pantry. So look at this pantry here. It is super cluttered, disorganized, and now let's take a look at a nice organized pantry. Look at the difference. Amazing, right? So now let's move on to closets. Now look at this closet here. It is super cluttered, jam-packed with stuff. And then look at this closet, right? Clean, organized, and it really stands out. So although the closet and pantries aren't the most important parts of your home, you definitely want to make sure to have them clean and organized, because if someone does happen to open those pantry doors or open your closet doors and things look organized, clean, and open, it is going to make it a huge selling point because it makes the space feel bigger, right? But when things are jam-packed and cluttered, it is going to make the space feel smaller, and ultimately in the buyer's head, make them feel like the pantry is really small or the closets are really small. Extra bonus tip number 12 is going to be your garage. Now, I know that the garage is typically used as storage, and especially when moving, things are being packed into boxes and shoved into the garage. But if you haven't started that process yet, I would highly recommend that you clean out and organize your garage. Similar to the last tip, the more clean and organized, the bigger it is going to feel, and ultimately be a better selling point because they're going to feel that, they have that additional storage room in the garage. So here are a couple of examples of what a garage looks really cluttered, right? Not much space, at least it feels that way, right? And then when we look at a garage like this, which it's the same size garage, right? It's a 2-car garage, but in this photo here, it looks so much more open. It feels like there's a lot more space, even if realistically, the first garage may have been bigger. Because the second one is more clean and organized and you can actually appreciate the space there, the second one feels bigger. Moving on to paint. Now, one of the most common things that I hear buyers complain about all the time is when each room is a different color. Now, although that may be okay when your kids were living there because they loved it, when a buyer is coming into play, it really helps if those rooms are just simply white, a really neutral color. And the reason being is because when a buyer comes in and sees the room's different colors, the perception of work goes up in their head, which decreases the amount of desirability, right? And when they're white, they're okay with keeping them that way, or even if they plan on changing the color, the walls are at least primed already and they're free to paint, whatever color they like, and it's not perceived as much work as if it was a different color and they feel like they have to prime the walls and then, repaint. It's just a bigger hassle in their mind. So I would definitely recommend, if you have the time, if you have the budget, be sure to paint the walls a neutral color, and you can never go wrong with white. Okay, and tip number 10 is going to be cool white LED lights. Now, when you look at these photos here, it's easy to tell which one looks the best. At least in my opinion, I think the cool white LEDs definitely stand out than all the others. And you got to remember, not only is this an important factor when you are actually showing the home, but the most important factor is going to be pictures, right? Because when your buyers are seeing the pictures online, this is what's going to be the determining factor of whether they even want to come and see your property in person. So if your pictures look like the ones they do in the top left corner with the halogen bulbs, they might just look at that and think, no, it looks, outdated, or, it looks very dull. And you don't want that, right? You want your photos looking crisp, clean, refreshing. So I would definitely recommend, if you have these LED lights laying around, or you're willing to spend, a little bit more just to really make the rooms pop, I would definitely go with some cool white LEDs. Number 9 is going to be natural light. So whenever showing your home, you want to make sure that all of your blinds, shutters are open and allowing that natural light to shine in. Here are some examples of natural light versus no natural light. So here, there's no natural light, right? And believe it or not, this really affects the mood and the vibe, the essence of the home, right? This room feels really dark, and now let's take a look at this room, right? tons of natural light, and it almost feels uplifting, right? Having all this light shine in, it can actually affect the mood subconsciously of the buyers, whether you believe it or not. So I would highly recommend opening up your windows, opening up the blinds, opening up the shutters, whatever you have, and allowing that natural light to come in. Trust me, it is a huge plus. It's gonna be neutral decor. Now I know that you probably, designed and styled your house however you like, but you gotta remember that when your decor is too taste specific, it is gonna turn a lot of buyers off, right? You're showing your house to the masses and you wanna appeal to as many of them as possible. So here's an example of some decor that's very taste specific, right? It's gonna take the right kind of buyer to really appreciate this decor. And now here's something that's a little bit more neutral, right? This is something that more people are likely to connect with and, actually feel like this is something that they would put in their house. And you really wanna appeal to as many people as possible when decorating your house. Number 7 is gonna be pets. Now, as a dog owner myself, I love my dogs to death, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that love your dogs to death too. But pets can create a big issue in terms of showing a house, and for a couple of reasons. One, I have a husky and she sheds like crazy. So if I was gonna show my house, I would need to make sure that she is basically, all her hair is picked up, carpets are vacuumed, the tile is swept and mopped. All of our furniture is nice and clean, because I really don't want pet hair kind of all over the place. And the reason being is, what if a buyer comes in and they have really strong allergies, right? They're super sensitive to, pet odor and pet hair. It could really be a major turnoff for them. And that's why I recommend you really clean the house really well. Another thing to consider is that if your dogs are like mine, who get super excited around anybody new, you really want to remove them from the home, just so they're not barking, going crazy, or even jumping on people, because we do have indoor dogs, right? So it would be best to kind of remove them, just because for some people, they're gonna love them, right? And they're like, oh my God, they're so cute. They're gonna play and they're gonna pet with them. But what happens if a couple comes in, right? They may be expecting a baby, and so for that reason, they don't want any pets around. Or maybe the husband has really sensitive allergies, like we talked about. You wanna eliminate any obstacles that you can create by having pets around. So it's always good to just remove them from the property, allow the prospective buyers to come in, take a look, and once they're done, you can bring them on back. Number 6 is gonna be to depersonalize. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with the decor, but let me give you a prime example. Take a look at this wall here, right? It is covered with family photos, and although you may love it like that, right, because it shows all the members of your family and you absolutely adore it, take a look at this wall here, right? It has one big piece of art, which it looks great, right? It looks clean, it looks more minimalistic, which is great. And even if you don't have large art that you wanna go and buy and hang up, you could just simply leave the wall blank. And the reason being is because when spaces are open and unutilized, it allows the buyer's mind to creatively think, how can I utilize this space, right? But when these spaces are covered, right, and they're already being used, subconsciously their mind just gravitates somewhere else and tends to look at other areas of the room, but you really want them to envision themselves what it would be like living in your home. That's why I recommend that you depersonalize. That way it gives them the ability to kind of start thinking of what it would be like to live in that house, which is overall gonna help you sell it. 5 is gonna be focusing on your main areas like your kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms, living rooms. And I know this sounds really basic, but it actually happened to me one time where I had a client. They were actually cleaning up the house themselves, and they really focused on the garage, right? And I hadn't really advised them, so it was really my fault. But they really started focusing on their garage because that was one of the messiest parts of their house. So they spent practically all their time focusing on cleaning up the garage, which isn't the most important parts. And what ended up happening is that they were so short on time from spending all their time over there that when they started to focus on everything else, it really they fell short, right? They didn't have enough time to clean up all the rest of their main areas, which kind of did have a slight negative impact on their showings. So keep in mind, focus on your main areas first. And once those areas are covered, then move on to the less than significant areas, closets, pantries, laundry room, garage, etc. Number 4 is going to be to declutter. Now I know I kind of touched on this when I was talking about depersonalizing, but it's super important that you focus on clearing the clutter on your surface areas. And the reason being is because, let's just take one example like the kitchen. If you have a kitchen and you have pretty much all of your appliances out, you know, blenders, coffee makers, toasters, it is going to make the counter space seem a lot smaller, right? And that can be an issue because in their mind they might think, wow, well, it doesn't really have a whole lot of counter space, which is a big deal for us. But when you put all of these things away, it allows the counter space to show, and it really highlights the amount of room that you actually have to work with. So keep this in mind in all different areas of your house. If you have big spaces that you want to show off, try to declutter them. So keep this in mind in other areas of your house as well. You want to make sure that if you have open spaces that you really want to highlight how much room there is, that you declutter, because it is going to make the space feel overall bigger, as opposed to, like I said, in a kitchen where you have everything all over the counters and it makes it feel like there's not much counter room to work with. Number 3 is going to be to have your house professionally cleaned. Now, with all of my listings, I usually have a cleaning crew go out and clean the house from top to bottom. But if you don't have a listing agent who covers that expense for you, I would highly recommend you go out of pocket and purchase this, just because when you're selling your house, you have so many things going on that cleaning should just be one of those things you could cross off your list, because it really takes up a lot of people's time, right? So by allowing yourself to just make a small investment, I usually pay about $100 to $200 per house, depending on the size. It allows you to free up some time and allow you to focus on other things, right? Whether that be decluttering, depersonalizing, putting stuff away that you don't want out. It really just is a big help. So overall, I would highly recommend getting a cleaning crew to come into your house and just give it a good clean down from top to bottom. That way it takes that off your plate and you can focus on other things in your house that are gonna make a big difference. Number 2 is gonna be the smell. So we've all had it where we walk into a brand new house and it's super clean and it smells great. It makes everything just feel so fresh, so alive, and so welcoming. But vice versa, I know you've probably experienced it where you walk into a house and it just kind of smells off, right? It smells, old and dusty and dirty, and it really just kind of turns yourself off to the idea, especially when purchasing a property, right? It could start spinning these wheels in your head that you don't want your prospective buyers to start thinking like, well, are they trying to hide something? Is it the carpets? Am I gonna need to replace them? Right? You want to make sure that the smell is on point. That way it just kind of ties everything together. Because even, like I said, even if the house is clean, but it smells bad, it is going to be a negative impact on your buyers, which you definitely don't want to happen. And number 1, my absolute most important tip that I would recommend to you is going to be to focus on the curb appeal. Now, the curb appeal is very important for one of 2 things. One, it is going to be what allows buyers to even come and look at your property, right? Because when they're looking at photos on Zillow or through a list that their realtor sent them, the first photo they're looking at is the outside of your home, right? What it looks like facing the property. And if they see that the weeds are, going crazy everywhere, the driveway's a mess, there's paint chipping and it's all discolored and stuff like that, that might just be enough for them to just scroll right past your home and look at their other options, right? Vice versa, if your house is clean, the landscaping is good, that is going to allow them to inquire further into your home and actually look at the pictures of your interior. So keep this in mind. Although your interior may be perfect, if your initial shot of the curb appeal is really just bad, they might not even bother looking at the interior pictures of their home, which obviously is more important because that's actually where they're living. But in a buyer's mind, they're going to look at your home from the outside and they're going to immediately subconsciously make a decision whether it's even worth their time to continue looking further into your home. That's why landscaping, cleaning and curb appeal is really going to be key to your success, because it is going to allow buyers to further look at your property, and 2, actually bring them in to see the home in person, which is obviously going to allow you to get those offers. So that's going to be it for this one. Here's a video that YouTube recommends that you watch, and here's a playlist for buying in case you're thinking about that in the near future.